they're here to talk about 10 things we've learned from the FIPP Congress and the FIPP MEA event. They'll be taking questions as they go along, so feel free to let us know if there's anything you're curious about. And take it away, guys.
Hi there, I'm John Schlaefli, I'm the Commercial Director of FIPP.
I'm James Hewes, I'm the Publishing Director at Gulf News.
We represent the global magazine media market. Now, what does that mean in 2016? Historically, our members, or the majority of our members, have come from a FIPP legacy, but it's now much more to do with the distribution of quality content to giving audience by whatever platform really they wish to receive that content. So, as was mentioned, we're here to talk about the upcoming FIPP Middle East and Africa, which is going to be held at the Grand Cab Tour on the 10th and 11th of February, which is 3 weeks tomorrow. But to explain the benefits and to explain the content of what we do, we thought it would be useful to go through our last event, which was the World Congress in Toronto last October. James has recently joined the board of FIPP and been a supporter and a member of lots of our conferences over the years. So what we'd like to do is just to talk you through some things, some actionable insight that James found that he was able to bring back to his business and some outcome from that conference. So, James, let's talk a little bit about how company culture's changed over the past years with the sort of ever-moving boundaries of media.
Yeah, I mean, this was really the first and most important learning that came out of the Congress. You can see the slide on the webinar. I'll change the slides as we go along. These slides are a selection of the slides that were presented at the Congress, and we will try to show you the best of them. So we're not doing every single one, we're just doing the highlights. Culture really was identified as the most important factor in change, and this slide and next one come from a guy called Peter Kreisky. Peter's an ex-timing consultant in media. He's very well respected in the magazine field, has presented at lots of different events, and he's even, sorry, somebody's saying they can't hear, so I'm just going to turn it. Hopefully you can hear us now.
Just turn it off.
Well, I turned it off. I'm going to move the computer a bit closer so you can hear. Right. Hopefully you can all hear now. I'll talk a bit louder as well. So Peter is a consultant who works very extensively in the magazine media industry, and he comes and presents his findings events regularly. And really his moment is on cultural change and the way in which that is a big driver of change in people's businesses. And he will be expanding on this at his presentation at FIPP Middle East and Africa, but I just wanted to show you some of the themes that he'll be talking about. He identified 5 key areas of cultural change that are crucial for magazine businesses or publishers in the digital world. And those are to disrupt strategically, to bring the audience inside, to have no silos, to collaboration between teams in your business, that speed is the currency and that you need to communicate your purpose effectively. So I'm just going to focus very quickly on 2 of those and just have a look at those in a little bit more detail. And you can obviously see Peter give you the whole presentation when you come to the event. But in terms of strategic disruption, where are we with? For immediate media, they've started talking about how they look at creation into business models that are focused on transactions and data. I'm going to show you that a little bit later. I wanted to show you also Hubert Burda Media, largest companies in the world, and how they've managed to diversify away from being a traditional print business into something that is very, very focused on digital ventures and on transactional ventures and on classified businesses. So here you can see Hubert Burda Media's scope of work that they do now, the scope of their businesses. And you'll notice that it includes things like digital ventures, where they're making small digital startups, and also they've got a lot of other digital bespoke businesses. So that's really important.
Well, culture's all very well. I mean, what role does technology play within changing that culture?
Well, I think technology really increasingly a strategic resource for publishers, as it says here. We were very lucky to have a presentation from Colin Bodell from Time Inc., who's just taken over, I think, quite recently as CTO at Time Inc. He was talking a lot about the role that technology plays in their business, and I like this quote from him. I think talking about the balancing act that people have to interplay between off-the-shelf solutions and in-house customization. And what he's really saying, and what a lot of the publishers are saying, is that you have to have some kind of technology function in-house. You've got to be able to customize your technology approach so that you can actually create something that's different and differentiate yourself.
What do we really learn about the way that that's changing, adapting the landscape?
I think it's really key to understand that the way that people do consume content is changing quite radically. And this summed up really from, this is a quote from Fabrizio D'Angelo from Berger, who is the fourth guy in the magazine. He's saying, if you're fighting against what the consumer wants, you're on the wrong path. I think that's really key. You're looking at trying to understand how the consumer wants to interact with content and making sure that you're part of that rather than trying to fight against it. So 3 broad themes in that. So I don't know how many people are familiar with this guy, PewDiePie. If you've got kids, you've probably seen him. But what he does is he does gaming videos. So he videos himself playing games and posts on YouTube. And this is really a great example of somebody who's built a media brand in a brand new media space, in this case on YouTube, and created something that is as big as a traditional media brand would be. So he's got 40 million subscribers, and he's a $50 million brand. And there are plenty of examples of people like him who've used the new media space to create new ventures. And that's something that we need to be aware of as an industry. People are going to choose how they consume their content. We've got to be.
How's that affecting the way that companies are making their decisions?
Well, I think data is something that's come out of a lot of the conferences recently as being a really key way that people make decisions now. So illustrated that with this cartoon from Dilbert, basically talking about how I always used to say that, you don't want any more to have meetings where people say, I think do this. I think you really want to have people saying, I know we should do this because the data is telling me. And I think that's something that is becoming embedded in people's businesses now. They're using data as a way of making decisions. And this is something that Time Inc. have done very, very successfully. They're putting data at the heart of their decision-making processes. You can see here, using data to basically re-engineer their business and look at how they then create context and how they create content audiences by using the insights that they're getting. And that's something that
isn't that very market specific though? Surely you can't take on that data to the whole business, specific individual product or channel.
Depends really. I think you have to play it by ear. You have to make sure that you don't lose the thing that we've been good at as an industry, which is the creative, the gut feel that creatives have, making sure that we don't turn away a good idea because the data doesn't support it. But you've nevertheless got to make sure that data is much more a part of your than it ever used to be. And that comes on to something we're going to talk about much later on in terms of measurement as well. But before we do that, I just wanted to look at content creation, because the one thing that data is supposedly telling you now is what kind of content people want to consume. And I think this quote from Duncan Edwards from Hearst International is this is still a very exciting time to be in content creation. It's not all about technology. It's not all about the hard stuff. The soft skills are still very important. I just wanted to share this view from National Geographic on the drivers of great content and great user experience. They've got 5 things here that they really focus on when they're creating content. So, sorry, I'm being told it's difficult. Yes, I'm moving a bit closer. I hope everybody can still hear us. We've got 5 things here that focus on when they're looking at user experience for content. The first is to be in real time. In other words, you've got to take account of the fact that people want social platforms to tell them what's going on. They want to know right now. You've got to think about the frequency of that content. It's not tied to traditional frequencies anymore. You've got to be out at the moment. Putting personalities around your content is really important, and I think that's something that columnists and all the rest of it. It's now about getting the whole of your staff to become personalities. All your journalists having a face and a voice. Being local, reading something today about how those newspapers that have done well behind paywalls are the ones that are focused on visuals, digital particularly, is the visual media that you've got to be really, really
do we find that? Do we find some danger though some media information overload because we have such media channels? Do you think that that's becoming a bit of an issue with consuming too much information?
Yeah, I think there's always a danger that you lose sight of curation, content curation as being important. If you just, people do want to be able to access everything whenever they want it, but they also want a little bit of guidance. And there are a number of brands around the world, thinking about Radio Times in the UK, that have transitioned from being a print TV listings magazine into something that is much more focused on providing guidance and providing a little bit of a second screen to what's on TV in this case.
Sure.
So yeah, I think curation is really something that people lose sight of. I was just going to use the example shown on screen as an example of how great content, in this case, great advertising content for a charity campaign in the US around gun control, can be as powerful as the content that we used to create just purely as editorial. So this was a campaign designed to highlight the difference between books that were banned by school boards and gun control. And really the important point here is that that campaign was then shared widely by media organizations, CNN, and news channels. So that had a life beyond just media advertising campaign, showing that creating great content is its own story. It becomes news in and of itself. The example I use a lot with people in the office is Red Bull and the jumping from space is now Felix Baumgartner jumping into space, entirely paid for by Red Bull, entirely funded by Red Bull, but covered very widely in the traditional media. And that's basically creating great content.
Let's talk a little bit about the Middle East now. There's obviously been an explosion of brands coming into this region over the last 15 to 20 years. Do you see that changing in the future? Do you see that there's still much opportunity for companies to expand into this region?
It's a very relevant question for this market, and it's something that we're going to cover in a panel at the FIPP MEA conference. We've got a good panel because there, and I think what they're suggesting is that the way that brands approach international is changing. It's moving from quite a set licensing formula into something more flexible, as you can see here on screen. Brands are looking for the easiest way in. They want to be driven by the licensee, they want to be digital first, and they want to have multiple revenue streams. And that's obviously very different from the old days of licensing. And you look at some of the launches that are happening here, and you can start to see that happening. I wanted to use the example of Cosmopolitan. Again, we'll hear from Duncan Edwards at the event, but that should steal his thunder. This is launching versions of their website in markets around the world where they don't have a print presence. And they don't have an office presence, launching it remotely and adding to their global audience. I think the example he gave was Nigeria, I think that's right, where they launched from the US into Nigeria and grew their audience massively without having to have any boots on the ground at all. Interesting for here because it opens up the possibility that somebody could launch a digital product into our market, into the Middle East market, without any local presence beyond possibly a local ad sales agent. And that obviously has implications for us when we're used to doing everything ourselves.
Is there a wider issue in the region that sometimes are put in perhaps for companies coming in?
Yeah, I think measurement tools. I'm going to do something about business models in a minute. We do that. Measurement tools really are changing. There's really interesting case studies about the 360-degree approach. If you look at what the MPA have done, you can see here on the screen the magazine media 360-degree approach MPA started to adopt, where they're trying to capture the audience across multiple media. It says here, consumer demand is the only common and comparable currency, and that's really the point, which is that you want to show people the full extent of your audience rather than just a very narrow understanding of the niche they have to be in, or the vertical media space they have to be in. So we're really moving towards showing a total brand audience, transparent. Before we go on, I just wanted to jump back a little and just talk a little bit about managing content in vertical. Piece of insight came out of the last conference. This is the media, the media market, in this case the weddings market, and they were basically saying that they sat down strategically a while ago and said, well, what is our strategy for this market? And they realised that they were operating in the £30 million sector of the market that was to do with media spend, but that there was a £10 million sector of the market in weddings, in this case, it's the niche they were operating in, it was to do with transactions, and they couldn't really understand as a business why they were in the low value part, getting access to those transactions. So somewhat unusually, and this is one of two acquisitions they've made recently, which is a big player in the UK wedding space, are now a transactional player in
media relative to the wider market and the wider opportunity, not just the advertising market that has to be in the sector.
Yeah, absolutely right. And interestingly, this company has since gone on and bought a TV shopping channel.
Right.
So they've got a jewellery TV shopping channel in the UK now, where they want some transactions.
Okay. So which the means that publishers are using. So what else can you talk about that and how that's really affected being there? That comes back again to really other and then what's that?
Yeah, I think it's a really important point, strategic point for the market right now is this issue of ad blocking. And it's, if you like, it's a threat to what they're doing. It's something that people need to be very aware of. I must admit that until the last conference, the two topics that I hadn't really been aware of before were ad blocking and ad fraud. Ad fraud in case of ad fraud, that means ads that are displayed but not seen but paid for. Ad block being a much more high-profile one, but ad blocking in this case, I'm going to just look at that for a moment.
Yeah, sure.
You look at somewhere like France, and in some markets here, there's more than a quarter of the digital audience using ad blocking technology. That means that ads that an audience that you think you can market to, 25% of them have gone straight away. And there's a bit of a technology arms race developing between the ad blockers and those who want to disrupt this. So I'm just going to show you over the page here on Axel Springer. So Axel Springer decided recently, and Axel Springer is a FIPP on the FIPP board as well, so we've got a lot of insight from them on how this has worked. They basically trialed technology that prevents people from accessing Bild.de, which is the biggest newspaper website in Germany, if they have ad blocking enabled. And their results were astonishing. I think they had something like 70%, I'm not exactly sure the exact number, but it was a huge proportion of their audience prepared to turn off the ad blocking technology in order to connect to the Bild website. So I think that's something that shows that although ad blocking is
things can be counted to
that's right. You can do something about it. So, I mean, just finally, I wanted to talk about the fact that people block ads because they don't like them. I mean, the reason why people are opting out of advertising, and that's because the ads are not very good. So, I just wanted to not relevant. Yeah, I mean, the issue goes with something from here, who again were a presenter at the FIPP Congress, and just talk about 7 steps that they had identified as to ways in which you can make your site a little stickier in terms of advertising. So the first one is less is more. So the fewer placements you have, the more likely it is that people will be accepting of the ad content and also the page logo that you're setting for that. You want polite placements. I like that phrase. Polite placements is really good. In other words, intrusive, not interruptive. People have come to a site or to a digital platform for an experience. They don't want to have that experience interrupted by your advertising content. The third one, you want ad formats that empower consumers. So in other words, they can turn it off, they can choose themselves whether they want to interact with it. It's not being forced down their throat. Fourthly, you've got smart data and targeting. That's the point you were making. You want to make sure the ad is relevant. The more relevant the ad is, the more likely it is that somebody.
And I think most consumers are quite receptive to that and actually find that quite encouraging. If you're actually served relevant advertisements around topics or interests at the moment, I think that then turns into a very positive.
That's right. And the fifth one, quality control the ads, is something that's been a big issue, particularly in the early days of the internet. You know, you don't have any control over the ads that go on the site. You want to start taking control. You want to make sure that the ads are good quality, and if they're not, then work with the advertiser to create something that enhances your site rather than detracts. Mobile first, obviously. You know, everything now is mobile first. Every meeting we have needs to be about mobile rather than anything else. And finally, be agile. Experience goes back to the point about data. Use that data to improve the experience. So those are 10 things learned from the FIPP Congress. I hope they were useful.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I do hope that you'll be able to join us 3 weeks tomorrow at Hathor Grand Hotel. Please do look at the website, which is www.fippmena.com. And I hope this has been useful and gives you some insight into the types of information and subjects that you should be able to gain a great deal of information about at our conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If we have any questions, please, we'll be online for another few minutes to take any questions. People are typing. Apologies to all of you who are struggling to hear what we're saying, but I think the webinar has been recorded and you'll be able to watch it again on the site. Is that right? Yes. So the webinar has been recorded, so if you missed anything, you can go back and watch it again on the Media Network website. And hope you get in touch with either of us, then please contact the Media Network and they'll put you in touch directly. Happy to answer any questions about anything that's in these. Okay, I think that's about all from us.
That's about all from us, yes.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
And goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed that presentation, and if there's anything you'd like to ask us regarding the webinar, please don't hesitate to get in contact at webinars@tmmne.com. Thanks guys.